So today, the topic is it's all in your approach, making positive connections. There are, I think, about over 100 people online right now, and I know many people are professionals, and in the vast majority are also are home family members, have family members at home living with dementia, and sometimes both. So, for example, for myself, I've had three family members who had different kinds of dementia. You might have heard me mention my grandmother who helped raise me with Alzheimer's, and my father with stroke vascular dementia, and also my father-in-law with Parkinson's-related dementia. So I feel the challenges and the amazing connections that can be possible all throughout the journey of dementia, very personally, as well as through the work I do at Halikuike. But today in particular, we're going to focus on how to get connected very specifically from where do I stand, what do I say, how do I say, maybe very, very concrete and practical tips in this webinar today. But we're going to start from the place of examining our own, and you can, if you're not shy, no shame, when you see me doing things with my hands here, please feel free to do it to yourself. So we're all of my webinars, and this one's no exception, it's all about the brain, our brains, the people we love who are living with dementia's brains. I'm going to kind of give a virtual head hug to the people I know who are living with dementia, because how we perceive things in the world, including I'm a person with dementia, the caregiver, it makes a difference. So we're going to be exploring the sensory systems, how we as human beings take in data, and how that's different when I'm living with dementia. So we're going to see how that's different, so we can figure out what we as caregivers need to do to change. And then we'll be doing the nuts and bolts of the positive physical approach. And this is a technique to be able to get connected visually, physically, how to communicate so that we can be in the same place, the same space and time together, in order to do what we need to do, but also to move through this world together in a positive way. We'll talk about communication and connection tips, and also the specifics of what's called the hand under hand technique to help connect and also to help get tasks done. So that's today's overall agenda. But we're going to start with talking about what is getting connected, and it's all about a relationship. So how we see and perceive each other in that moment in time, or it might be broader. My child is taking care of me, and I'm living with dementia, or it might be a spouse. But the relationship is what's most critical, not necessarily so much the outcome of the one encounter. So whether I take my medications or not, whether I finish what I'm supposed to be eating or use my walker, those are secondary to the relationship first. And we are the ones with, again, give your brain, which has been working very hard, not just as a dementia caregiver or a professional caregiver, but throughout this pandemic. We need to take care of our own brains. So we are the ones that are key to making life worth living. And people who are living with dementia are really doing the best they can every minute of the day with the changes that have happened in their brains. And they really are doing the best they can. So the person who can change and make adjustments is us. And that is not an easy thing. I'm not saying it, offhanded, like, oh yeah, we have to change our approach. I recognize this is not an easy thing, but we're going to start with trying to understand how we as human beings see the world and take in data, and then how that's different for those we love who are living with dementia. So if you put your hand up, I'm going to put it really close to the screen. Put your hand up to yourself. 5 senses. We have 5 senses that we take in data from the world, process it, and bring it into our brain. So our brains are our central system that processes everything. So number 1, put your thumb out like this. I look around, I'm going to pretend I'm an artist looking around. What I see, visual processing. Number 2, auditory, what I hear. Number 3, take your middle finger, touch the back of your hand. what I feel and touch, what I feel and touch. That takes up a big part of your brain, your sensory motor strip up here. And then number 4, what I smell. Number 5, what I taste. These first three are what we're going to focus on today. The numbers 1, 2, and 3. And they're in this order for a very specific reason. Number 1, visual data. We as human beings, we are hardwired. We want to see what's coming. If I hear something behind me, what's the first thing you're going to do? You're going to turn and look. You really want to see what it is. If you feel, so that's sensory input number 2, right? Auditory, I hear something, but I want to see it. You feel something. And for me, the most powerful example is like if you're in the ocean and something touches your leg, what are you going to do aside from scream? You're going to look, right? You want to see what it is. Hopefully it's something pretty innocuous like some seaweed or something. But so other kinds of input, auditory input, sensory input, cause us to want to look. We want to see. So people who are living with dementia, and we'll go into a little more detail, because there start to become problems with processing auditory input and even sensory input, want to see, they pay more attention to what they see than what they hear. So they are getting more information from what you look like and what you're showing them, whether it's with your face or your hands or holding up an object, than what they're hearing. So we're keeping that in mind today as number 1. So let's go back to putting up your thumb like this. Number 1, visual data is the most powerful sensory input for us. So if we look at vision, so with that said, what the heck is vision, and how do we see, and what do we see? If you touch the back of your head here, and here in this drawing, and photograph, the picture on the left is the a person who donated their brain. Both of these individuals donated their brains. The one on the left has no disease process. They did not have Alzheimer's disease or any other kinds of dementia. And you can see the occipital lobe in the back here. And then this one here is someone who passed away from Alzheimer's disease. And you can see the brain change that we're talking about is the shrinking and dying of cells. So the brain is actually smaller. There are holes on the inside, and the whole brain is affected. So when we think about those 5 senses we went back to, they are processed in different parts of their brain, and they work together. They work together. So let's see. I just got a little note here about audio settings. Let me just up my mic here. Okay, I just upped my input level. Hope that helps. You can see that there's physical changes there in the vision center. So what does that mean for those that we're caring for who are living with dementia? So what's going to be happening is they're going to have changes in their peripheral awareness. They might have started having problems with depth perception, object recognition, and overall their processing speed is going to be a lot slower. So, we can understand those words, but how can we put ourselves kind of into the body and brain of someone living with dementia to see how they see the world? Because we started this conversation with saying vision is number 1. They want to see it. We want them to see us and see what we're trying to show them or help them with. That's the most important thing to come first. But what can they see? So if you are looking at your computer, which you probably are, and you have this here, I'm waving my hands around here. This is your peripheral vision, right? You get tested on it every time you go get a new driver's license. They want to make sure you can see on the side because that's your safety vision, right? So as you get older, this is normal aging, no dementia. You start to lose some peripheral awareness. So in this first picture, the one on the left here, you can see, it's almost like I have like a little wings here on the side. Go ahead and hold that up a little bit on the side here. And while you're looking forward, you kind of get an idea of a little bit of loss of peripheral vision here. I know older drivers often get a bad rap for having dings on the car or things like that. But there is a change that makes it harder for us to be aware of things on the edge. So those are more likely, but we can compensate by making sure, I can notice a change in my own peripheral awareness, and I'm in my later 50s. It's not just when you're very, very, very old. So you need to look more, for example, with driving. But on top of these normal peripheral changes, when you are living with dementia from the beginning of the journey to the end, your area of peripheral awareness starts to get smaller and smaller. So this is, I'm not, the awareness is processed back here in your occipital lobe. It's not that there's something wrong with your eyes. You're not going blind on the side. That you can have eye diseases that can cause different changes in what you can see and not see. This is about the brain. So my brain is shrinking and dying, and I start to narrow my awareness because I just can't take in and process all that data. But I need this front tunnel vision to be able to see you. So if you put your hands like this on yourself, it's like you're wearing a snorkel mask, right? You go snorkeling. And you can kind of get an idea of what you can or can't see. So with this snorkel mask on, if someone were standing right beside you, if you have someone in your room or you can imagine, would you be able to see them? If you take it off, you're looking still straight ahead, you have an awareness of the side. But with this on, you don't have any visual awareness. So even at this early stage, sometimes we might be standing where we think someone can see us. But because of that, even that slight change, they cannot see. So if you go down now to the mid stage, put the monocle on. I'm going to put that on, try and put that on my screen there. Right? Go ahead and put that on here. So it's like you're wearing binoculars, not monocles, sorry, binoculars. So I have my binoculars on now. And you can probably still see your computer, maybe the little edges of it, for me anyway, edges of it are a little bit blurred. But what else can you see in the room? Can you see things beside you, above you, below you? So imagine your walker or a footstool was right in front of you and you wanted to stand up and go somewhere. What do you think might happen? Yeah, you're going to trip over it because you just flat out didn't see it. How about you spilled some things on your shirt? Mom, you spilled some things on your shirt. Go ahead and try and find it. No, I don't think so. I just put this on. I've lost that awareness. Put it on again. Looking at your computer straight ahead, imagine you have a plate of food in front of you. Can you see it? What do you have to do to see it? You'd have to know it's there and take a look down. So a lot has changed. In the last picture, hand over one eye, this is toward the end, later stages, monocular vision, and that's where you start to lose depth perception. So this active field of vision is shrinking and shrinking. It's not gone. That is still there, but it's important for us to know where it is. So for at Halikwike, what I share with staff when we do this is all of our residents are living with dementia at different stages. Probably not the earliest stages. They probably were living at home or in independent living or another kind of setting for many, many years, possibly with earlier stages, and maybe still able to function pretty independently. But by the time they move into memory care, a place like Halikwike, they're further along. So they are likely at a minimum here, but more likely getting even towards the binocular. So if we can picture a person wearing these binoculars and then be able to position yourself where they can be seen. And we do this practicing with each other, putting this on, where do I stand? And it can be very surprising what you can or can't see. So I would really encourage everyone to give that a shot, well, on your own, with a partner, and to try and do different approaches and see what you can and can't see. Because when you can't see something and a noise comes from the side, or you get touched and you didn't see it coming, what happens? Picture for yourself when something like that happens. You didn't expect when someone touches you from behind. Your flight instinct kicks up. And you might be recovering, oh, it's you. I didn't see you there. But for someone who's living with dementia, with the brain changes, I get alerted. It's not so easy for me to come back down. and my brain is already not processing things as quickly or as well as it did before, I might react before I get a chance to realize that it's someone that I know and love possibly. So I'm going to go forward here a little bit and look at, so that was sense number one. We looked at vision. What the heck is going on with vision? We know it's the most important, but what can they see? And where do we need to be for them to see it? Number two, auditory input, language. So with language, so this is a cross section of the brain here. It's if your brain were like a toaster, and you poof, a little slice comes out. So your left temporal lobe, go ahead and touch your head on the left. Everybody touch your head on the left. Language, you can give yourself a little pat here. Language on the left. Rhythm on the right. Left, right. Language on the left. Rhythm on the right. Lose on the left. Retain on the right. So language is lost on the left, but rhythm remains on the right. So language, there are three parts, make sure I get the camera, 3 parts of language: vocabulary, speech production, comprehension. So those 3 things work together. I have words, I can make words, I can understand your words. So as this left temporal lobe is affected, the left side, and in most dementias, for some reason, it's affected earlier, and in some types of dementias, very severely earlier, frontotemporal, for example, a lot of language impairment. I can't find the words. I'm starting to lose my vocabulary. I'm hearing the words, but I'm not understanding what you're saying, even though I might be nodding along. And the words that are coming out of my mouth might either be not the correct words, or I might not be intelligible. I start to get very vague, the one. So this starts to be a challenge, because go back to your second finger, the auditory input. We rely on this. You're signed up to listen to me talk for an hour and a half, and I'm counting on you to be able to understand all my words, even though I am using a lot of visual cueing too. But it's what we're accustomed to, and it worked for us, and it worked for us with this person who's now living with dementia for a very long time before this, possibly their whole lives before, if it's a parent or a long time spouse. And when it's not working, what can we do? What remains that we can connect with? So I'm going to go forward here. There we go. On the right, so back to the right side. So even though things are changing on the left, rhythm remains on the right. And there are a lot of things stored on this right-hand side that's separate from this higher language here: vocabulary, comprehension, speech production, social chit-chat. Hi, how are you? I'm fine. That sure is pretty. You sure are pretty. Oh, why, thank you. The kind of talk that you don't really need to think about. It's automatic. It's automatic, and it is kind of rhythmic. Music, poetry, and prayer. So I might not be able to speak a full sentence, but if you sing a song from my childhood or even up to teen years, I can sing all the words. You start a poem or a prayer that I know, I can finish it. It's a different part of your brain. Rhythmic movements. And so those first 3 are gifts, but the last one, not so much of a gift, but it still has a purpose, is the forbidden words. So they're stored on the right side: curse words, racial slurs, sex talk, all kinds of profanities. Those are a special class of words that we all know. Even our sainted grandmother knows these words, but we have impulse control not to use them. And we keep them in a different part of our brain. Because if you can remember when the first time you as a child dropped a curse word in front of a parent, what was the consequence? Could be pretty severe, aside from just a strict scolding, depending how old, it could have been in the old days, soap, chili pepper, all those kind of things. So you learn quickly, these are powerful words, very special words. What a different reaction you get when you use them. Store them away in a different part of your brain. Now, I have lost my higher language, and I'm upset. And I need to tell you that I don't like what you're doing. What words do I have? Get that out. I have those words, and I want to pause everyone right now. that they are, when they come out of someone that you love's mouth at you, it is shocking and it hurts. Take a step back, take a pause, take a deep breath, and try to take. I want to try and diffuse the power of the words themselves and move to what is behind them. And it's not that they're a bad person. It's that they have something to express, and there's an emotion or a need behind it, and those are just the words that are there. So sometimes in actual real life trainings, especially at Holly Quick, we might drop a few curse words to try. Do we want to take the power out of them? Because they're just words. They're just words. Go here. Okay. So I talked about the language part of the brain. Let's talk about hearing for a second. So the hearing part, of course, people can have hearing impairment, but the hearing part is remarkably not affected by dementia itself. So there might be other causes that make you have hearing impairment, but not hearing itself. So they can, for the most part, they can hear you. It's the understanding that's lost. So it's not that I like to say, it's not that they're hard of hearing, they're hard of comprehension. So talking louder doesn't, Mom, I told you 10 o'clock. It's like, oh, why are you yelling at me? I heard you the first time. So if someone's not getting what you're saying, of course, like I said, there can be hearing impairments, but with dementia, there is understanding impairment, comprehension impairment. So what goes wrong a lot of times when we're trying to get connected? We as caregivers, we're using number 2, right? This used to work. We used to be able to meet here in the center and communicate back and forth, and we love to talk. We're really good at it. And so we just keep on repeating the same thing, and they're more focused on us visually and not processing the content. But we think if we repeat it over and over again, it's got to stick eventually, right? But think back to what the brain looked like, what the brain changes that are happening is. And it's not because they don't want to remember, or they don't want to hang on to the information. They just can't. So number 3, let me just do number 3 here. So if you touch the back of your hand, sensory motor. I'm doing this low and smooth. If you could go ahead and do it to yourself, I don't think if anybody's around, I don't think there'll be anything strange if you're doing this. We're hardwired, if something feels good, we will keep doing it. We like it. If something feels good, we like it. If it doesn't feel good, we'll pull away. So sensory input, we have a reaction, right? So do something, feel something, we'll do something. So these 3, visual, verbal, touch. Visual, verbal, touch. So go ahead and do that with me. Visual first, visual cues first, then verbal, and only then touch. This order matters. So we're going to show before we tell, before we ever touch. And sometimes we mean well, but we get these things in the wrong order. So a classic example that I have done myself, and I have heard done, even here at Halikuike, because a lot of times we're reacting to something that's scary. Like, so, I know that a certain, like my grandmother, if she didn't have her walker, she was going to fall down. So the minute you see her, my mother and I would see her without her walker, what's the first thing we would do? Grandma, hey, your walker, you forgot your walker. We start immediately, number 2, start yelling, because 1, we're afraid, right? She's already fell how many times? It's only a matter of time before she breaks a hip. We're afraid. So we jump right to number 2. I don't know about you. I can't think of a single time where I have either done it or heard somebody else doing it, shouting from across the room to tell someone to use their walker, that it's ever actually worked. And that the person living with dementia has paused and said, "Oh, you're right. I forgot my walker. Thanks." What usually happens? They don't process what we're hearing. We're blah, 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 blah. Someone's saying my name over and over again over there. We have to get up and give them the walker. Here, your walker. I told you you have to use your walker. We end up doing number one, but by that time we're pretty frustrated. Number three, even sometimes well-meaning, we might touch first before. For example, just even a casual, I'm seated in my wheelchair and you're happy to see me, you come on in and just give me a nice touch from behind, you might even like just touch my hand, and I might give a jump. Think to yourself, have you ever had the experience of accidentally startling someone that you know who's living with dementia? Was it because of a sound, that you said something or some kind of sound that startled them, or a touch startle, or even a visual startle, something coming from the side? Like I know my aunt in a restaurant, well, now we're not in restaurants together like this anymore, but the waiters and things come from the side, so she can't see. The first thing that comes into her view is a hand coming in from the side. Whoa, startle, knock over the tray, everything, what's being served, big mess. But why did that happen? Because of her vision changes, and she couldn't see what was coming. So now that we have gone deep into these three things, and we want to do visual, verbal, and then touch, how do we do that? And this slide always kind of cracks me up, even though I'm all in for the positive physical approach. It really does work, but it's just kind of funny to think of having 9 concrete steps in order to basically say hi to someone and go in and end up shaking their hand and getting into this hand under hand position at the end. It's like, why are there so many numbered steps? It just seems kind of strange at first. But each of these steps is purposeful to take into account those changes in vision, auditory processing, and sensory input processing. So we're going to go over each of these steps. Now, this is kind of like learning a dance or learning a new recipe or something. There are set steps, and I'm going to say dance instead of a recipe. They will feel awkward at first. You'll forget some of the steps, and you might put them in the wrong order, or it's okay. We're all learning, and it's going to take practice. Also, it's an outline, like a template that you can use, and you can make adjustments. So if you are a very tall caregiver and the person you're caring for is very small, for example, there are adjustments that you would need to make. If the person you're caring for is often seated, no matter how tall they are, that means they're automatically a lot shorter than even me. I'm a short person. People in wheelchairs, I'm going to have to make adjustments. So again, this is concrete steps, but they're adjustable for different situations. So, and Jody already sent out a handout, a supplementary handout that's specifically about this positive physical approach too. So just before we start, let me go back 1 second to go through all these steps, coming in from the front, greeting, coming in slowly, shaking their hand, getting to the side, and all of that. I want to pause and take a moment to think about personal space. So again, even though we're all here to talk about someone who's living with dementia, all of our brains are in this game together. So we want to understand our own brains so we can understand the person, because the person living with dementia is not a different species. They're a human being just like us. We have all these same brain functions and instincts and comfort levels with space in this case, but the brain changes because of the dementia on top of that. So 3 zones of human awareness. And this first one, public space, 6 feet or more, really has a lot of meaning and ramifications these days in the pandemic. But if you look at this first picture, or in the second picture, so when you're about 2 arms length away from each other, that is about 6 feet. That's about 6 feet. So you can see this is staff at Halikwike demonstrating greater than 6 feet on the left, about 6 feet, and then arm's length closer in closer in here. So the first, so we remember we had visual, verbal, touch. These correspond. The first one, public space, 6 feet away or more, so that fingertip length away or greater. That is where we as human beings were used to visual interactions. It's kind of hard to talk from that far away. And I'm sure many of you have had this experience during these pandemic times. We need to be 6 feet or more away from each other. We're wearing masks, which makes it even harder, but that it's a little far for a verbal communication. It's a challenge. So because it's made for visual interactions. It's where we wave from a distance, right? Things like that. So personal space, so that's 6 feet. So you get in this close. That's close enough to be able to talk, generally, pretty comfortably. And then intimate, the third one, so that's sense number 2, right? Talking space. Number 3, intimate space, arm's reach is where we can touch each other. Touch. That's number 3. So if you think about number 3, the intimate space, how many people in your life do you let in that close? Probably not that many. And if someone is standing that close to you, close enough to touch you and talking, and you probably have all known like really close talkers, and they just keep getting closer, and you find yourself just kind of inching away. Your brain wants to create that personal space, right? It's important for us as human beings to be comfortable. If you want me to be comfortable with you, you need to respect my personal space. But that intimate space, we as caregivers, whether we're family caregivers or professional caregivers, we are in there in our intimate space all the time. We have to do intimate care, personal care, help someone eat, brush their teeth, going to the bathroom, changing clothes. We're in arm's length and touching constantly. And that's a lot for a human brain to process. So if you thought about it for yourself, and again, think about how many people you actually allow in there, especially in the more intimate places. It's not very many. So we need to be aware of these 3 zones of human awareness and work our way in a way that you can be comfortable with me in your intimate space and touching you. So that's our goal. We want to get connected visually, verbally, and then touch, because we want to be connected, not just to get a task done, like to take me to the bathroom, but just for emotional support, spiritual support, to be there together in love and connection. So I'm going to go over the steps, and I'm going to show photos. I'm also going to be showing a video, and you'll see some of the Halikuike staff and myself doing this positive physical approach. So the first step, the very first step, and remember, go back to this vision, how small, tiny that little window was, is you want to be at the edge of public space. Stop moving at 6 feet. Because remember, when you start moving in from 6 feet, you're starting to move into their personal space. Pause at public space. Give me a chance to see you and not be threatened by you coming racing in. Hey, how you doing? Nice to. Pause. Remember, the person who's living with dementia, their processing speed is slower. Not just processing, understanding, we talked about what you're saying, but also visual things. So we're going to want to, and this is something I find personally challenging, because I tend to dart around, is slowing down my movement. So when I work with staff and training, I tell people, move slower than you're comfortable with. It feels weird, but don't sweat it. Walk slower, move slower, pause, give people time to see you. So at the 6 feet sign, what do you want them to see? You, your face. Now remember how small that vision was, and my goal is to shake their hand. So I want them to see my hand. So you see here, the staff member's name was also Dorothy, by coincidence. You're going to have your hand near your face to say hi. Normally we wave like this, but if you think of this as having a bullseye painted on it, right? Picture that, bullseye painted on it, and then I wave that bullseye around. Well, what's that called? Moving target. My brain's already working hard to try and see you. Give me a chance. Pause here. Hold this still. Hi. and bring it in slow when you're coming in. So if they look at this, they get to see this too, because it's right in their window. Wish I had 3 hands. Okay. So you want to smile and make eye contact. So you're far enough away they can really see you you're asking permission. I'm going to say their name and offer my hand. So I'm having a visual conversation. We are trained, even though I know in this pandemic time, we are not shaking hands with each other right now. But for the person that you're caring for, we're touching them. Whether you're professional or a home caregiver, and this, putting your hand out, hi, I'm Dorothy. If I stick my hand out to you, automatic, you're going to want to shake hands because we've been trained to do that in our culture. So I'm having a conversation with you. You saw me, and I'm asking you if I can touch you. That's what a handshake is. May I touch you? And when the person raises their hand back, that's the answer. Yes, you can touch me. So if they don't reach their hand out, which does happen too, might be a few reasons. One is, I'm not interested in touching you. And that's a valid response. The other is, I might not see you even though you think you can see me. So that's another response. So move in slowly, 1 second per step. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. You might have to practice that. I know I did for sure. Walk slowly. When you get to the handshake, you're standing in the front. Now, normally we shake hands, and then after a few seconds, one person kind of releases their grip a little, and that's the signal to us, handshake's over, we get to put our hands back down. If someone keeps holding on and handshaking, have you had that experience? I'm sure, I know I have. And it's like, this person is shaking way too long. We have an agreement. When I let go, you're supposed to let go too. And we're standing straight in front of each other. This straight on stance, the way I am in this screen with you, it's called a confrontational stance. We're not, and now I touched you, right? I'm in your personal space. I'm not far away like before. I'm in your personal space and I'm standing right in front of you. And even if I'm smiling, it doesn't feel comfortable. Our brains don't like it. Who stands that close in front of us? Authority figures, parents, teachers, right? We're not trying to be confrontational, but by staying there, we are accidentally perceived as confrontational, especially because if you put these on and the person is that close, you've blocked out all their vision. All they see is close up of you and no way out if they wanted to go. So if we lean in even further, especially like if you're in a wheelchair and hey, how are you doing today? I probably don't look as great as I think I do. And with your close-in vision, this camera actually does a pretty good job. It really can be unsettling. And I might be asking the person to do the thing they love the most. I know you love bingo. I know you love whatever it is, but my brain is on high alert now, just by accident. It was not your fault. We were not trying to be confrontational, but we can accidentally be confrontational. And then we don't realize, like, why are they so stubborn? Why are they so, contrary? Or what's she so angry about? And we don't realize we accidentally started up that fight, flight. So we came in, we shook hands. When we start to release, both people will start to release. We're going to turn to the side, and I'm going to switch my grip into hand under hand, and you can see Dorothy has it here. So I'm a little bit to the side, so if your monocular vision can still see me, but you can also see some of the world, so you're not feeling threatened. And I can be here on the side holding your hand, and your brain, you the person living with dementia, your brain can relax. You will not feel confronted by me. It's supported. So this is supportive stance. So I went from confrontational stance to supportive stance. I even read once doing some advice about doing webinars sitting like this, but I don't know about that. Anyway, so you're not blocking their visual field. Whoops. hold on. So this is hand under hand. So if you look at it, when you're shaking hands with someone else and you make the switch, your hand, so take your hand like this, your hand is the hand that's underneath. I'm here to help and support you. So you're the supporter. So if you're wondering, well, whose hand's supposed to be on top, whose hand's supposed to be on the bottom, you are the support, right? We're not arm wrestling. I'm not here to make you do things. We're doing this together. I'm supporting you. And that's hand under hand. So I would like to ask, hold on, let me go here. I'd like you to, with your own hands, even though I know it's, normally when we shake hands, we're each shaking with our right hand, and you are now shaking your own left hand. But just kind of put palm to palm like this here. Palm to palm like this. And you can feel you have a lot of padding here. And even in an older person, this is the side of our hand that's designed to touch things and take a beating a little bit. Now, look at your other side, and depending how old you are, you can look at mine, right? It's like, compared to Dorothy in the screen there, it's a little bit bonier than it was when I was younger. Right? This is a more vulnerable. Go ahead and touch this side of your hand. Feel this as opposed to this. Right? This side here has less protection. And then go ahead and give yourself some squeezes here with your palm. Whoops. Right? Feels pretty good. Palm to palm pressure. As human beings, we like it. It's comforting. Sometimes people do this to themselves to relax. Or stress relief. You might use your thumb to massage your palm. Palm to palm pressure. It feels good. Okay, so this is Holly Quike staff doing practice, and we practice back and forth with each other. This is just the most basic, standing face to face. They're a little more than 6 feet apart right now. We practice it also with one person sitting, one person standing. We do all these things. It feels very silly, and we have a lot of fun, but it's useful to practice with someone who will be a friendly and forgiving guinea pig with you. Not practicing for the very first time with someone who you're trying to care for, who has had like a huge accident or is feeling very angry or emotional. That's not the time for practice. Practice in a nice, safe space first. So here they are. I'm going to play it for you real quick here.
Hi.
Shake, supportive. Yeah. Move in supportive stance. So you can see his hand is underneath and her hand is on top there. So if someone is seated, so if you put those binoculars on, right, if you are sitting down and someone is standing up, it's different. You might be looking like straight at their chest or something as opposed to their eyes. We want them to see your face. So you would need to, at this part here, and this is where this actually works pretty well. So you are now in a wheelchair, and I'm coming to see you. So if I'm waving at you standing up, you can't see me. Hey, how are you doing? I'm glad to see you. So I made the adjustment for you. I made the adjustment for you because I know your vision is narrower and your posture is poor and you're in that wheelchair, but I can move, right? So you can see here, Dorothy has gone into that supportive stance to the side. If you can't squat down like that, prep ahead of time, pull up a chair before you start coming in. And you'll also see she has her hand on her shoulder. Put your hand on your own shoulder. Just the weight of it. Feels good, right? We human beings, we like pressure on joints. We like pressure on joints as opposed to muscle back. So palm to palm, joints. I got a hip joint here. Those are places that feel good to touch. And when you have hand under hand and you have a hand on the shoulder like that, you can see it's like a closed circuit. You're really connected. They are eye to eye. And he, as a person living with dementia, does not have to change anything. She's right there. Oh, there's the chair. Yeah, get a chair. Okay, so once you get in, make a friendly statement. And when I talked about walking slowly, same with talking. Low and slow and pause and give time for a response. We as human beings, we struggle with silence. So if I ask you a question, how are you doing today? It's hard, right? It's hard to just wait. But I'm a person living with dementia, give my brain a chance to connect. And that takes practice too. So these videos you're seeing, these are real life Holly Quickie staff practicing. These are practice videos that we take and we look at for ourselves. So, okay, so here's one of our nurses approaching a resident. Now, one thing to pay attention to is she's using words and he doesn't use words so much, but can you tell if he is understanding her? And what kind of cues, visual, verbal cues is he giving her? Whoops, wrong button. Sorry.
Hi.
I'll have to change it.
Send the hand.
Good
Can I
to
touch
see
you?
you.
Yes.
How are you this morning?
She waited.
Okay? You doing okay? Okay, good.
Did you notice the wait? How are you this morning? And then what did he do? They gave a nod. So they are connected and they are communicating, even though he has very few words, right? So they had the conversation, see me, may I touch you? And he said, yes, by coming to meet her. And then she used so that chit chat, right? That social chit chat, which we know remains, and paused and waited, gave him time, give him the grace to reply in his own way, So, okay, I'm going to go forward again. So, some positive. So we work at those nine steps. All this to talk about, the public space, personal space, intimate space. This kind of hand under hand thing that's going on. You work that hard. You get all the way in. Now what are you going to say? The whole goal, remember, going back to relationships, is I want you've welcomed me in. Now I want you to be comfortable and that I'm there. So the first thing you say probably shouldn't be, it's time for your shower now. Come on, let's go. It's time for your shower. Or here's your meds. Whoa. Take a look at your hand. This is your agenda. You have things that need to be done. I might have had a BM accident and I'm sitting in it and you know it, but pause, even though that's your agenda. Take this agenda, put it on your head, right? You have to know your agenda. Please do, touch your head. And then take it and stuff it in your back pocket. Stick that agenda back here. So know your agenda, but don't show your agenda. If you have one, your agenda might be just friendly chit-chat, great. But if you have something to do, put it in your back pocket for a moment because you worked to get in here, get connected. Make me glad you're there. Keep that relationship going like you would for any other human being. And introduce yourself. Hi, I'm Dorothy, and you are, and wait. Say something nice, something that's right in front of you that's visual, you can see, like, I love that color on you, or whatever it is. Share something. I'm from Hauula, and you're from, just to get things going. And from there, you can move to what the next small step might be towards your goal of getting me to the bathroom, for example. So that probably the first step would be getting me to stand up. But keep that agenda in the back pocket. Oops, sorry. So you want to give visual cues first. So if you're going to deliver a message, so we got connected visually, we got permission to touch and come in, and now I want to communicate with you, but you're having trouble in touching my left temporal lobe, understanding my words. In this time of pandemic, this is even more important because we have these masks on all the time. It's hard to read my words. It's harder to hear me. I'm probably a little muffled right now. So I already have trouble understanding your words, and it's getting a little harder because I can't, whoops, sorry, because of this. So even more than before, I mean, it was important before, visual cues along with first and verbal next. And I would even say now, because we have those masks on, especially for everything you're trying to say, if possible, show it too. Let's stand up. Come. Thirsty? Are you thirsty? Whatever it is, try to show it too, because I already have some impairment, and then I'm extra impaired because of the masking. Okay. Okay, and then go forward here. This is, so positive action starters. So you got connected. You made a positive personal connection by telling you how glad you were to see me, or you like the color of you like my earrings, or something like that. This is where these 5 kind of simple examples can be applied to a lot of situations. So asking someone for help as opposed to telling them what you want them to do, right? It's time for lunch. You have to go in the other room. Could you help me? I'm getting the lunch. Can you help me with the table setting or whatever it is? People, human beings, we don't like to be told what to do, as you probably know from yourself and other people in your life. But asking people to help, asking them to try. I know you don't like this. Can we just try it just this once? Giving simple choices, keeping it short and simple, and breaking things down step by step. Even something like standing up. The first thing you have to be able to do to stand up is have my feet flat on the floor and lean forward first, right? If I'm back here and you're telling me to stand up, I'm missing that first step. I might want to stand up, but I can't figure that out. Help me break it down. Leaning forward first, then up. Okay. So here's one more. So this is me approaching from the front. And you'll notice she has her eyes closed first.
Are you so nice and fresh? I'm good. Look like you can get up and eat. I'm good. I love your pink.
There's your cueing. I love your pink.
I enjoy this area quite a bit. It's great to see you.
Pink shoulder. Okay. So you get to see a variety of approaches there. Here's one more. One more.
Hi, Lily. Hi.
Hi,
How are
you?
you?
No, see.
Yeah, it's good to
Hello?
see
Goodness.
you.
I didn't know you come here.
No, I haven't been for a while.
No wonder.
I just wanted to come by and say hi.
Oh, so nice of you. I haven't seen you for ages.
I know, I miss you. I'm glad to see you.
Yeah. Are you still helping around here?
I try to.
Oh, I come now and then.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's so good to see you.
Good to see you.
Okay, take care.
Yeah, take care
Bye-bye.
now.
Okay. Yeah. You can see in the back other staff are watching them practice because we're taking turns there. Okay. All right. So I just want to touch on the hand under hand again. The other thing about hand under hand, we talked about how palm to palm pressure feels great, which it does. It also offers safety because when you shake hands with someone, if you shake hands, have you had people who shake hands too hard? Or crunch your knuckles, or have you held the hand of someone who's living with dementia and they have such a strong grip that it kind of can be painful. You're like, ow, hey, you're hurting me. Sometimes as dementia progresses, they retain this, they can contract sometimes, but aren't that good at releasing. So for you, it's a two-sided safety measure. If you can switch to the hand under hand, here I am doing hand under hand to myself. Go ahead and squeeze your own hand as hard as you can. It's actually hard to inflict pain on this one. It's very safe for both of you. And the back of the skin, I'm going to switch to the next slide here. Here's a resident's hand, and then a middle-aged staff member's hand, and then a young staff member's hand. So the back of the skin, as we get older, it gets thin and fragile. Our subcutaneous fat disappearing. It's so easy to bruise and tear. So if we're helping someone from this side, well, touching from this side is arousing and stimulating and not comforting. But if you try to help me up by hand this way, skin can come. I've had it happen. My own grandmother, for example, skin just comes right off in your hand, and then there's all this bruising. It's like, oh my God, I wasn't trying to hurt her, but it was because of the nature of their skin. So if you can be in her hand, it's safe for you. You don't get hand squeezed. Also, it's safe for them because of the skin, reduced skin tears and bruising. Here's a resident's hand who's in her 90s at the time of this, and you can see how papery thin her hand is. So holding on this side would just be immediately result in bruising here. So you want to use visual combined with verbal. It's time for, let's go this way. Here's your sock. Okay. Don't ask questions you don't want to hear know the answer to. You want to have lunch? Nope. You want to take your meds? Nope. So be careful how you phrase the question, because the automatic response is often no, not out of stubbornness. It's just an automatic reaction. Limit your words, keep it simple. This last one, I think, is one of the most important things, is to wait, pause, slow down. Just slow down. It actually, in addition to helping the person who's living with dementia that you're caring for, it helps yourself. Your brain is working overtime as a caregiver. More than overtime as a caregiver during a pandemic. Give yourself a little breathing room too. Give yourself time to process what's happening, to be able to see them and see how they're reacting before you keep moving forward. So I'm going to do a quick review here. So this is part of what we had on that pre-test. So human beings taking in data in 5 ways. The most powerful one, that the input is desired first, it's true. It's visual data. Without realizing it, care partners can be perceived as confrontational through body language. Absolutely true. Confrontational stance. Our brains don't like it for very long. We will try to get away from it. So switching to supportive stance is what is the most helpful there. When approaching someone living with dementia, it's okay to touch them before they see you. No, that is false, because of their changes in peripheral vision and the likelihood of getting that fight, fright, flight response. When I'm in that heightened fearful state, I can't process anything that you're saying. And it's harder for me to bring that emotion down. So everything we can do to avoid that in the first place, it's not, you can't avoid it 100%, but by coming from the front, making sure they see you coming in slowly before getting permission to touch, will make both of us be able to move through the world more smoothly and have those moments of joy. The fourth one, as dementia progresses, yes, the field of active vision gets smaller and smaller. Again, they're not blind on the side, but this is what they're able to perceive. I'm just not processing all that data on the side like I used to. And palm to palm pressure, soothing. And by the way, this doesn't just work on people make people with dementia living feel better. Other people too, yourself, family members, right? It's something that you can share freely. Doesn't cost any money. Okay, so building skill. When you go to practice this, which I hope you really will go to practice this, I'd like to think for a moment right now, and if you have paper and pen, just jot it down. Who in your life can you ask to be your friendly and forgiving guinea pig to practice this new skill and feel weird and laugh and feel silly doing it with? Who can do that with you? And just jot it down. Please do ask them, and just maybe practice 5 minutes a day and give it a try. It really, really will take practice, and practice both ways. So being the person practicing the approach, and being the person who's living with dementia, feeling what it feels like. Because what we're doing through this webinar and all of the Positive Approach to Care webinars, is learning how people who are living with dementia are perceiving the world and taking in data. And part of that is putting ourselves in their position and feeling what it feels like. You can even practice, what's it like? Put on the binoculars and ask your partner to brush your hair or come from the side. It just feels what it feels like to have things done when your vision is impaired that way. Okay, so the approach matters. We did that one. This one we did too. So one more thing I'd like to touch on before we get to the end is about emotional communication. These 3 tips with saying, the first one about saying I'm sorry and not being afraid to validate the emotions. A lot of times, especially when the emotions that there are no negative emotions, but the ones we tend to label as negative, we try to push them away. And it's like, calm down, don't, stop it, calm down, just calm down, Mom. As opposed to saying, you're really angry. This is, put the word to it. And even for ourselves, we need to acknowledge our emotions to be able to, I'm trying to tell you I'm angry. It might be by cursing. And then you acknowledge this is not good. Someone stole your purse and you're angry. Yeah, damn right I'm angry. That shouldn't have happened. I'm really sorry. Yeah, you want to be able to, you kind of meeting them right underneath. We'll do more of this in the challenging behaviors, but it's important to validate the emotions and repeat the words as opposed to adding on your own words. For the later stages of dementia, when words are not so much there, look at the whole body. I mean, it applies to all stages, but see what they're expressing with the body and validate. So even if I have someone who's bad and they're doing this with their hands, when I'm communicating with them, I will mirror that. And by doing that, I'm telling them, I see you, I hear, I see your emotions. I acknowledge, I validate your emotions. That's not right. That is not right. I will use the exact same words and I will gradually lower my tone. This is just an example of someone who's feeling upset and bringing them down. But you can, for any emotion. So that's a way to get connected, because this webinar is all about getting connected. And there are so many ways. We're getting connected visually, then verbally, then physically, then emotionally, and then spiritually. We're all in this together. They cannot move through this world and life alone, safely anymore. They need us together. Things that they have lost, we still retain the skills and the healthy brain, and together we can move through it. We can do things with them, not just to them. Okay, I'm gonna go forward here. Hand under hand, we did this. Okay, so you do all this communication and practicing. If something's still not working, remember that agenda that we had? I had you put in your back pocket. Our instinct is to keep shoving it, keep shoving that agenda in their face, because it's important. We have to get this done. Stop. Make this timeout symbol. I have people practice making this timeout symbol. And who is it for? It's for myself. Okay, I just have to stop, because if you find yourself, we talk about people living with dementia saying the same thing over and over again. Have you had the experience of finding yourself saying the same thing over and over again? Pause. Saying the same thing and not getting a different result. You're not going to get a different result. Pause, back up, think it through, and think about, see if there's another approach, something slightly different, in a different room, in a different space, maybe a different person, different words. Maybe there were too many words, but anyway, pause. Don't keep pushing.